Shabbat, one of the third malachot is called hotzah. Hotzah is to carry on Shabbat from a Shita Yachid, from a private place, well, tiltul. But tiltul means to move something. Hotzah means to take out from one domain to bring to another domain. Say it again. Today is the oraita if you go from a public place to a private place. So that's the question. So Moshe Feinstein says that we have a Rishut Rabbim today. He says that Manhattan is a Rishut Rabbim. Want to say it again? In Manhattan, Moshe Feinstein, good morning, Nathan. He holds that it is a Rishut Rabbim, and therefore he says you can't make it even an Eruv, according to Moshe Feinstein. In Manhattan and Brooklyn, he says you can't make an Eruv. Now, there are people that disagree with him and say it's not a Rishut Rabbim Daraita, and therefore you could make an Eruv. You see what I'm saying? So, good morning, Adam. So that is the discussion in regarding today's times. Can you make an Eruv in certain communities? In the suburbs, 5 towns, or Englewood, these Teaneck, all these places, it's not so controversial. It's not such a big place. We have so many hundreds of thousands of people. Therefore, even those people who wouldn't carry Manhattan or Brooklyn would be comfortable to carry in those smaller areas. It's just the big major areas, major cities, where there will be issues of Eruv, whether you can make an Eruv or not. We are on 5a, and the Gemara has been for a while around 5a2, and the Gemara has for a while has been trying to find who is the author of our Mishnah that says that if you place something in somebody's hand, and if a guy on the inside, the Balabayit, places something in the hand of on the outside, so it went from private to public, we say that that's the case. The Mishnah gives a case of a violation of Shabbat. And if he did it unintentionally, he has to bring a korban chatat, a sin offering. The Gemara had a technical question. The technical question was the hand of a person is not dalit tfachim by dalit tfachim. It's not a significant area. It's less than 15 inches by 15 inches. And they have an accepted understanding that if you place something on something that's so small, like the size of a hand, it should not be considered that you really placed it down. And therefore, the violation of Shabbat, good morning, Ralph, would not have been accomplished. So the Gemara said, so who is the author of our Mishnah? So the Gemara said that, you know what? Elo Amar Bavahu, we're on 5a2. Elo Amar Bavahu gives the following answer. You know what the case of the Mishnah is? He lowered his hand within 3 tvachim of the ground. And because he lowered his hand within 3 tvachim of the ground, that means his hand was very close down to the ground. So we have a rule that if something's within 3 tvachim of the ground, within about 11 inches of the ground, that if it's on the ground itself. So therefore, and we gave an example yesterday that if you make a wall, let's say a wall for a sukkah, we have to look more into the halakha practical, but I would just say a wall, if the wall is off the ground, if let's say the wall doesn't reach the ground, let's say you have a wall, but there's a space from the ground to the beginning of the wall. If the space is less than 3 tvachim, less than 11 inches, we look at it as if it's attached. We look at that amount of space is insignificant, and it's like it's attached to the ground. So that's what the Gemara wants to suggest over here. Talking about when he lowered his hand less than 3 tvachim from the ground, and kibla, and that's where he received the item from his friend, or either, let's say the poor person was on the outside, his hand was lower to the ground, and the balabayit and the guy on the inside handed to his hand that was low on the ground. So the Gemara says, the Gemara asked the question, but how could you say that the man, the item, his hand was within within 11 inches of the ground, but the ha'omid ktani, the Mishnah says the poor man was standing outside. When you're standing outside, if your hand is within 3 tvachim of the ground, you're not standing. You would have to be more sitting for your hand to be within within 11 inches. Morning Morris. For your hand to be within 11 inches of the ground, you would have to be more in the sitting position, not in the standing position. So that's the Gemara's question. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Morris. The Gemara just said that the case of the Mishnah, that how do you fulfill the requirement of placing it on an area that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, which is a certain amount of area. It's about 16 inches by 16 inches. If the guy on the outside lowered his hand within, all the way close to the ground, but since he lowered his hand close to the ground, so therefore it's as if as long as his hand's within 11 inches of the ground, it's like it's already on the ground. So if it's like on the ground is definitely 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. The ground is a tremendous man. If you put an item from private property and you place it in public property on the ground in the Rishut Harabim, you placed it on an area that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. You placed it on 16 inches by 16 inches. So and we're going to say if the hand is so close to the ground, it's as if it's on the ground itself. So that's what the Gemara wants to say. But the Gemara's question is, what do you mean? But the guy is standing. Your hand can't be close to 11 inches from the ground if you're standing. So the Gemara says he's bending. You have to say, we have different answers to how does the guy get his hand within 3 tvachim of the ground while he's standing up? How do you get your hand so close to the ground within 11 inches from the ground? So the Gemara says, B'shochet. He's bending down. That's one answer of the Gemara. So if you bend down, right, you could be standing, but if you bend down and you bend down low enough, your hand could be within 11 inches of the ground. That's one possibility. Morning, Nathan. The second possibility, the Gemara says, Ibayis Ema Guma. That the poor man was standing in, let's say, a pit, a hole that was in public property, and his hand was close to the edge of the pit. He was, let's say, a little bit extended his hand above the pit, within 3 tvachim of the ground, within 11 inches of the ground. Good morning, good to see you. And because his hand was extended within 11 inches of the ground, it's as if his hand is on the ground itself. The item is on the ground itself. That's another scenario, but the Gemara is not going to be so excited with this. We'll see in a minute why not. If we're talking about a midget, a person who's a midget, a midget that, the hand below 3 tvachim, even when a midget is standing, his hand could reach within 11 inches. That's obviously a different size for midgets. And within 11 inches of the ground, even when he's standing, his hand could reach within 11 inches of the ground. But remember, the difficulty with these answers is that the Mishnah generally doesn't talk about such. The Mishnah did not identify that we're talking about such situations, and that's what Rava is gonna say. Is the Tana Amar Rava. So again, the Gemara gave 3 scenarios how your hand could be bottom of the ground, in 11 inches of the ground, and because your hand is from the 11 inches of the ground, it's like it's on the ground itself, and therefore it meets the requirement of
Could someone shut the background? The background, Ralph, is that you?
Yes.
If someone's what's it? Okay.
Could you mute, Ralph?
Yeah, if someone can remember to mute something. That would be helpful. Okay. So that was the Gemara's question of the Gemara said, I have three cases that it says if it was placed on the ground, because the hand is within 11 inches of the ground. How did we get the hand 11 inches when you're standing up? Either it's a midget, or whether he's bending down, or whether other cases standing in a pit. Good morning, and then he
could be sitting down also
above the pit within 3 tvachim from the ground. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava. So Rava has this problem with this. The answer is, Ich kapel tana lashmina kolhani. Does the Tana, the author of our Mishnah, is he going to busy himself to teach us the law of carrying in a situation which is a law of carrying where a person is going to be violating Shabbat and requiring to bring a korban chatat, a sin offering, in a situation which is so not common? The Tana does not usually busy himself to tell us of a situation, of a circumstance, a case, which is not common. Usually when he tells us a law, he tells us a law in the common situation. So therefore, Rava comes up with a different approach, which seems to be the acceptable approach. Elo amar Rava. Yodo shel adam, the hand of a person, chashuv lo, is very significant. It has a status like arba al arba. It has a status of 4 tvachim, of a place of 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Meaning to say, you understand that we said that the reason why you need to place an item down on something that has an area of a surface of let's say around 15 inches by 15 inches, because that's called, it's really placed somewhere. It's placed in a sturdy place, it's not going to fall, or it's a common thing to people place things down on something that has some sort of area to it, not something that's very narrow. But a hand of a person is so significant that that's the normal way a person places things into a hand of a person. And it's something that's very sturdy, even though a hand of a person is the size is very small, but its abilities and what it does, what it accomplishes is very, very good. And therefore, that's an exception to the general rule. When is the rule that you have to place something on something which is 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim? If you would place something on a pole, let's say in public property, there'll be let's say, I gave an example yesterday, we used a tissue box as an example. If there'll be in public property, there'll be a tissue box extending from a wall in public property, and then you have a tissue box attached to the wall, and you want to put something on top of the tissue box, that's not considered a proper placement. Tissue box is not 15 inches by 15 inches. Right, like a ledge, right? That would not be considered a proper placing. But if you go ahead and you place on a person's hand, that would be that would work. And then the Gemara says, ki ata Ravin, when Ravin came from the Holy Land, Amar, he said, when they reached the Holy Land, the big rabbi, one of the great rabbis of that time of the Gemara, was Rabbi Yochanan. So he said that Rabbi Yochanan, that's how Rabbi Yochanan answered the question. Rabbi Yochanan said, Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Yadal shel adam chashuv lo k'arba arba. The hand of a person is considered like 4 tvachim, but it's significant to him as an area of 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, and therefore that would be considered a proper placing. And also, if the man is, let's say, on the inside, the balabayit, if the poor man extends his hand inside and takes from the hand of the balabayit, that's also considered, he took it from a place of that's considered significant. The hand could both work, both for the taking from the hand, for the akira, for the uprooting of an item from a hand, and the placing into the hand of someone else, both for the uprooting and both for the hanacha, both for the placement, the hand will be considered a place that would fulfill the requirements of the laws of Shabbat in order to violate the Shabbat with the uprooting and the placing down. If it went from one domain, from the private to public, public to private, or 4 amot in public property. Now, then we had
So
another.
wait, so that means all of that means if I go from my hand to your hand, and it's 4 amot apart,
In public property,
that
that would be
chayav,
the violation.
that's chayav for carrying.
Right. And if you go
Carry.
if you go from private to public, you don't even need to go 4 amot. Just any amount of
Right.
distance going from private to public. But in public property, you have to go about 6 to 8 feet. If someone picks up an item and then he walks with that item, goes up 6 to 8 feet with that item. Let's say he found something in the street and
Even if he doesn't give it to someone else,
even if he doesn't, even if he himself places it down, or we're going to see, but his stopping is like a placing down.
right,
That would also be in violation of the Shabbat.
right.
And then we have another rule. Amar Rav Avin, Amar Rabbi Eloi, Rabbi Yochanan. Zarak chayfetz. If someone threw an item, he threw an item 4 amot in public property, or he threw it from private to public, or public to private, v'nach b'toch yodo shel chavero, and it rested. You threw it, and the other guy caught it. It rested in the hand of the other party. So the chayav, the one who threw the item, is chayav. Meaning, it's not only when you walk with an item on Shabbat, person walks 4 amot in public property. Also, if you throw something from private to public, or you throw within public property 6 to 8 feet, it's also chayav. There is actually a chapter in the Masechah Shabbat that deals with different situations about throwing. It's called Perek HaZorek. So the Gemara said, "My kamash malan." What is the chidush? What is Rabbi Yochanan coming to teach us? Yodo shel adam chashuv lo karbal arba. Is it coming to teach us that the hand of a person is significant to the person, is considered significant, just like a area that's 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan chad zimna. We had Rabbi Yochanan, Ravin said earlier, we had the quote that when Ravin came back from the Holy Land, morning mark, that Gemara is for you. You know, they say this Bud's for you, the Gemara is for you. We don't serve Bud. We don't serve Bud Light here. We serve Gemaras over here. And that's the best Bud. That's the greatest Bud. That's the greatest enjoyment is Torah. So we're on 5A 3, top of the page, close to the top of the page. So the Gemara's question is, Rabbi Yochanan, the general rule is, the rabbi, if he says it once, he doesn't need to say the same thing twice. I mean, so the Gemara's question is, why is he need to tell us? When he explained the Mishnah, when Rabbi Yochanan was explaining the Mishnah, right? Our Mishnah states when a balabayit, one of yourself, hands into the hand of the poor man, the Mishnah stated there's a violation of Shabbat. And Rabbi Yochanan explained the Mishnah. What's the reason for that? The hand is not 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim, but the hand is significant like 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. So then why does Rabbi Yochanan make an independent statement by throwing an item? Right? By throwing an item. What's the difference between throwing an item? Why would you think there should be a difference between throwing an item or handing an item? So that's the Gemara's question. So what does the Gemara say? We are on 5A3. Morning. The Gemara says, we're discussing the laws of giving an item from private to public or public to private, and we're stating that the hand of a person, even though it's not so large, it's very small. What is it? A few inches by a few inches, right? What is it? 3 inches, 3.5 inches wide by by 6 inches long, whatever it is, we say that that hand is considered a proper placing of an item, which would create the violation of Shabbat if you go from private to public or public to private, so on. And Rabbi Yochanan seems to repeat himself in telling us that the hand is equal to a larger area, meaning in general, if it's not a person that you're handing it to, you're putting it to, like Nathan said, on a ledge or something. The ledge is not an area it's not 16 inches by 16 inches. It would not be considered that you placed it in a place that would violate the Shabbat on a Torah level. It's not a hanacha. It's not mutar, meaning you still might have. I mean, it depends the situation. Meaning, if a guy goes from private property and he goes to the public property and he goes and he puts it on a ledge, so he might not have violated the Torah law, but definitely rabbinic law was violated. Public to public, if a guy walked 4 amot in public property, so even if he put it down on something which is not the biblical violation, even if he didn't put it down, but he still did something that he's playing with fire. He's getting too close. He's getting too close to do it in the real way, right? When people, you're almost. We want to know if he's chayav a korban chatat, a sin offering, meaning to violate. In order to bring a sin offering for violating the Shabbat unintentionally, you have to meet certain things. Or Mark, if we want to give the guy a death penalty, for if intentionally we warned him, don't do this on Shabbat, and he goes ahead and he does this on Shabbat, he doesn't listen, but he didn't do it exactly the way that would he missed. Technically, he didn't put it down in the place that would obligate him. So we have to know what will obligate him, what will not obligate him. So the Gemara said, we might have thought that the hand of a person could count as if it's a significant area, like as if it's 15 inches by 15 inches. When you went ahead and I had in mind to place it in the hand of my friend. So I went ahead and I had that intention. So the fact that I had in mind to place in the hand of my friend, that would make me obligated. However, if I did not, I did not intend liyodeh in a situation where the guy did not intend to throw it, that it should actually reach the hand of my friend. It happened to be that he threw the item, and the guy and it reached the guy's hand. I wasn't thinking about my friend's hand, whether it would reach my friend, it might reach my friend's hand, it might not reach my friend's hand. I wasn't intending to have a catch with the guy that he should catch it. Rashi says it went by itself in the hand of a friend. I did not intend that it should reach that he should catch it. I threw in his direction. I wasn't planning that he should catch it. So I might have thought that since I wasn't planning on placing in that guy's hand, then maybe we would not have given the significance to the hand because you weren't intending to use it as a place of placing it down. When I intend to place it, someone place it into Adam's hand, so then I would say the hand that I had intention to place it into, that's called I violated the Shabbat. But if I did not intend, right, I intended for the receiver to receive it. But if I didn't, if I would throw it, I intend to throw into his hand, or I intended to place it in his hand, then it's considered his hand is considered significant for me to violate the Shabbat because I intended to put it into that hand. But what did you say? Right, so because he didn't do the he's a passive player. Right. So he might be violating rabbinic law by assisting me in doing the sin. But that's not regarding the laws of carrying, he's not involved in the carrying or the placing down. He's just being a receiver is not a Shabbat violation. Unless you threw it and you receive. We're going to talk about a case. What about Mark? The guy throws it, then he himself. Stay tuned. That's going to be a case of the Gemara. And it went 4 Amos. He was pretty fast. He was Ricky Henderson. I don't know. And he threw it and really he had some air time on it. So it's only 6 to 8 feet. It's not hard. Now, what would be would that be a violation if it's yourself? If you threw it to somebody else, right? You would be in violation, right? Now you threw it to yourself. We have to see that Gemara is coming up soon.
Throw it 4 or 5 Amos in public domain.
But then it rests in public domain. That's violation because upon when it stops, it stops. Right. You don't even have to go 4 Amos from private to public. But even in public, right? But in public itself, if someone's in public and he picks something up from the ground in public, he finds a ball and someone left the ball in the street, right? And he picks up the ball and he throws it, then it lands and it lands in 4 Amos away wherever it lands. Once it stopped. So now the ball is stopped. It's resting on the ground. The ground is 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. It's 16 inches by 16. Now the ball is. It's a good thing, something to think about. Is that really called resting? Because maybe the wind will could blow it away. It's something to think about. Is that a normal resting like a ball with rolls? That's something to think about. What the law would say about that. So the Gemara says, so therefore we needed Amalo, therefore Kamashman, therefore we need Rabbi Yochanan to tell us that not only when you intended to give it to the guy, you're in violation, but even when you did not intend, you were throwing it, not intending that he should catch it necessarily towards his direction, you are in violation. Now, just again to address Mark's point, there's something called assisting a guy doing a sin. So if the guy is accepting the thing, and as a result of his acceptance, he's helping the sin take place, so that becomes an issue of he's part of he's not violating the Shabbat, but what he's doing is he's helping me do a sin of Shabbat. Meaning in the laws of Shabbat, he's not in violation at all because he didn't uproot the item, and he didn't place it down. He only received it. A receiver the receiver is not the one, he didn't get the handle. It was handed to him, but he did not place it. You just received it. So receiving it, but his intent to receive it, that's not the violation of Shabbat is by doing the violation of carrying from one domain to another there's 2 components. One is the uprooting of the item and the placing down. But if he
was active to go get the ball.
So the Gemara is going to talk of if let's say he runs forward, so therefore if he runs forward to the place where it wasn't going to go, it wouldn't reach, then the guy who threw it did not violate the Shabbat in its on a Torah level because it did not go where he intended to throw it to. Meaning the guy who threw it didn't make the placing down. It could be in your case, then he would be in violation of doing one part of the act. Because by him moving forward to catch it, he might make the placing of the item down. Because if he just stands still and he still and it reaches him, then he did nothing regarding Shabbat, but he might have done something wrong regarding assisting a sin.
God throws it, and he intends to drop well in front, short. And someone else runs to catch it.
And we get it earlier.
Because he caught it
Earlier than we were.
Land in public domain. Therefore, he threw it from private, and it landed in private, not through his intention. The
guy doesn't violate.
He intended for it to be in public. He would have been in violation.
Right. So because
the guy caught it short,
he saved him.
The thrower didn't
violate.
And the catcher did half a violation.
But where was the catcher located? He was located where? He was located, but he caught it in private. So I don't think
only private is his hand.
A private's hand. Okay, so that might be the fact that since he's standing in public and his hand is in private, so that might be perhaps a rabbinic prohibition that he did.
The receiver,
right?
The thrower got
off the hook. for full violation. Right,
Exempt.
right, he's exempt. Right. So the Gemara says another thing. Amar Rav Avin, and here's exactly what we just talked about a moment ago. Amar Rav Avin, Amar Rabbi Eloi, Rabbi Yochanan. Bimkomo, we said if a guy throws something for amot, so it depends. Amad bimkomo v'kibel. If Adam, use Adam as the example, is right next to him. If he stands still and he receives it, so then chayav. The guy who threw it is obligated because it went exactly. He threw it. Is that clear? He threw it to him. He was standing in public. They're both standing in public property. He threw it for amot, which is about 6 to 8 feet, and it reached Adam, and he caught it, and it went exactly where he intended to go. Chayav. Then the one who threw it is obligated. He's violated the Shabbat. Now his intention was to throw it to Adam, to reach him, and it reached him. Adam caught it. However, but if Adam went ahead, he ran forward, Komo, and he hastened the placing down because it wasn't going to. So then he ran forward to catch it early, even though it went a distance of 4 amot, it went a distance of 6 to 8 feet. Then potur v'kiba. Then the one who threw it is exempt from bringing a sin offering because it only rested not based on the power of the thrower. It came to rest based on the power of the receiver. The receiver went forward. But definitely the receiver is not obligated. Why? The receiver did not uproot the item. In order to violate the Shabbat, to have to bring a sin offering, you have to do both. The same person has to do both the uprooting of the item and the placing down of the item. If you do one of the two, you're not obligated. You're not a Torah violation. And the Gemara says, Tanya Namihachi. We learned in a Braita like this as well. Achirim omrim amad b'mkomo. Meaning here we have an earlier rabbi, a Tana, saying, if you stayed in your place and you kibel and you received it, chayav. The one who throws it, right, Asaf, is in violation. You caught it. It went exactly where he had to go, right, Morris? But however, if you ran forward and you caught it in an earlier place where it wasn't intended to go, patur. You are the person who threw it is exempt from the sin offering. Right. It's just a support from an earlier rabbi, from a Tana earlier. Boy, Rabbi Yochanan. Now here's the case that we spoke about before. You threw it, you ran forward, and you caught it yourself. Boy, Rabbi Yochanan. You threw an item, it went the distance that would violate the Shabbat. Let's say it went 6 to 8 feet, whatever it was, 4 amot. The nekehum komo, you ran, the chazav kiblo, and then you caught it. Mahu. What's the law in such a case? So the Gemara shoots back. What's the question? You did the akira. Everything happened by you. You threw. It's not like and you place it down. You uproot it. You place it down. What should be? It should be pashut. It should be obvious. It's a violation. Might come a violation. What is Rabbi Yochanan's question? He should definitely be obligated to bring a korban. So Omer Rav Ada Barava. Rav Ada Barava says this is his question. His question is: do we say that when one person does both the akira, usually you hand it off to somebody else. You put it down somewhere else. But here you went ahead, the same person did, he threw it and he caught it. Do we say we look at it, it's like one person. And if it's like one person, so it's one person did the whole malacha. One person does an act, he's chayav. But we know if, let's say, 2 people do, one guy does the uprooting and one guy does the placing, we said you're not chayav. Nobody is chayav. Nobody is chayav on a Torah level if one guy does one and not the other. And the question over here is, Dilma, do we look at a situation when the uprooting and the placing down, when it was done by using two different types of abilities? One is I I threw it, and then I went ahead and I caught it. Do we look at it? Now Rashi says what's the issue? Rashi says, Rashi seems to say that when he threw it, he caught it earlier than where it was going to go. Rashi puts in that detail. So I threw it, it was going to go, let's say, 10 feet. But because I ran and I caught it at 8 feet. So I caught it at 8 feet. Now, if Adam would have ran forward and caught it at 8 feet, I would not be chayav because it didn't go where it was intended to go. It's going to go 10 feet, and Adam ran forward and caught it at what? We want to take it 8 feet. But here, that's not the case. Here, it wasn't Adam that caught it early at an earlier spot. I myself did it. So I did both the uprooting and I did the placing down because I caught it early. But the fact that it was done threw me. It didn't go exactly where I originally intended to throw it to, right? Without me running early, it would have went further, right? It would have went 10 feet. And now it went 8 feet, right? What, do you hear the case? I threw it, it was going to go 10 feet. That was my throw. This is done to throw 10 feet. But I myself ran. If Adam would have ran forward and caught it at 8 feet, I would not be in violation. Why not? Because I only did it because it wasn't placed down where it was going to go. So now it's the same way if Adam would have ran forward and caught it at 8 feet, I would not have violation because wasn't placed where I intended to go. So if I myself was the one who threw it actually went ahead and ran ahead and caught it earlier, would I be in violation? Because here it's not two people. If it would have been Adam, I would not be obligated. Where I intend to go. And I ran early to catch, but I did it. It was the same person who did the uprooting, ran forward to catch it early. So since I'm one person, maybe I should be obligated. I did both the uprooting and I did the placing down by catching it early. But on the other hand, it was going to go further away. So that's the issue. We'll see more tomorrow. I don't want to be late.
He goes like this. He stops and he caught it. It's not going to stop here. It's going to go 2, 3 feet more.
Right. But I mean to say I intended to throw it to Adam where he was standing. But here my intention was to go further. That when I originally threw it, right. But the question is where was the intent and how far it was going to go? We'll see more tomorrow about this. To identify this morning a little more about this. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Chodesh Tov, everybody.